So now let's look at converting to different units of measurement, particularly in area. So using our imaginations, imagine that this was a beautiful, perfectly drawn straight line like a ruler that had these perfectly evenly spaced things. It's just that I'm terrible at drawing on the iPad. Anyhow, so from here to here, from this big purple line to this big purple line over here, imagine that that is 1 centimeter. And then from this purple line here to the next purple line is another centimeter. So centimeters are actually made up of smaller units. So 1 millimeter is represented by each little orange line here. So let's count how many little millimeters fit inside a centimeter. So starting from our first purple line, we've got 1 millimeter, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So 1 centimeter is actually equal to 10 millimeters. And you can double check this if you have a ruler handy. So if I count from the very beginning all the way to 2 centimeters, I wonder how many millimeters there will be. Let's see, so 2 centimeters is equal to, let's find out. Let's count. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So 20 millimeters. So for every 1 centimeter, there are 10 millimeters inside that centimeter. So if I wanted to represent this information here, this length, I could write it as 1 centimeter and that would be right. Or I could write it as 10 millimeters and that would also be right. So sometimes when we're working with measurement, we will sometimes be given shapes, particularly in area, where they actually have 2 different units of measurement. So for example, this shape here that I've just drawn, it says that this side length here is 10 millimeters. Yet this side over here is 1 centimeter. Now, if I was to do my area calculations using my typical formula of base times height, oops, forgot my A for area. Always write our formula first. So my base, if my base was 10, because that's what this is here, times by my height, which is 1, which is over here, I would actually get 10. But what would my units be? Would I use millimeters squared or would I use centimeters squared? I can't actually do any calculations if I don't have the same units that I'm working with here. So it's important that when we work with area and we try to do our calculation, that we make sure that all of our units are the same. So sometimes that will involve us having to convert to different units to make sure that they're both using the same. So here, in this case, I have 2 choices. I can either turn this 10 millimeters over here into centimeters. And how would I do that? Well, looking back up here, 10 millimeters is actually a centimeter. So this would be 1 centimeter. So then I'd go area equals base times height equals, my base is now 1 centimeter. My height is also 1. So 1 times 1 is 1. And I'd have it as 1 centimeter squared. Alternatively, let me pick a different color pen. Let's go with brown. Otherwise, I could leave this in millimeters up here and I could turn this one into millimeters. So 1 centimeter equals 10 millimeters. So I can do that. So let me find another space to write. So area equals B times H. I'm just going to write that because I'm kind of running out of space here. So 10 millimeters times 10 millimeters would give me 100 millimeters squared. There we go. Here we have the 4 most common units for area that we use in the metric system. We have millimeters, centimeters, meters, and kilometers. Now we were just talking about how 1 centimeter is equal to 10 millimeters, and how 2 centimeters is equal to 20 millimeters. And if I had 3 centimeters, it would be equal to, you guessed it, 30 millimeters. And if I had, let's say, 10 centimeters, I'm jumping ahead a little bit here, I would have 100 millimeters. So the rule here that I'm getting at is to go from centimeters to meters, I'm multiplying by 10. Because if I have 1 centimeter, 1 times 10 is 10. If I have 2 centimeters, 2 times 10 is 20. If I have 3 centimeters, 3 times 10 is 30. If I have 10 centimeters, 10 times 10 is 100. So, to go from centimeters, no matter how many of them, all you have to do is multiply it by 10 to give you how many millimeters there are. And then we can do that in reverse. So to go from millimeters back to centimeters, oops, let me get my pen working. From millimeters back to centimeters, how would I go from here back to here? If to go from centimeters to millimeters, I'm timesing by 10, in order to get back, I would be dividing by 10. So I'm going to be dividing by 10. So if I have, say, 90 millimeters, divide that by 10 would give me 9 centimeters. Now, when it goes from converting from centimeters to meters and back again, the rule is pretty much the same as it is for going from centimeters to millimeters, except instead of dividing by 10 or multiplying by 10, you're going to be dividing or multiplying by 100 instead. Times 100. And to go from centimeters to meters, you're going to divide by 100, and I'll explain why. So let me find my red pen again. There we go. So if I have 1 meter, there are 100 centimeters in a meter, and you can test this theory out if you have a tape measure handy or if you have one of those 1 meter long rulers. Otherwise, you can take my word for it or Google it. But within 1 meter, there are 100 centimeters. So if I have 2 meters, it'd be fair to say that's 200 centimeters. If I have 3 meters, that would be, you guessed it, 300 centimeters. So from here to here, it's multiplying or dividing by 100. So if you had to take a guess as to what the next rule might be, to go from here to here, we'd be dividing by, or from here to here, we'd be multiplying by 1,000. And the reason for that, let me pick a different color. The reason for that is because 1 kilometer equals 1,000 meters. So if I have 2 kilometers, I have 2,000 meters. If I have 3 kilometers, I have 3,000 meters. Now this information up here is something that you are going to continue using every time you do anything involving measurement throughout high school. So I do recommend that this is something that you pay attention to, because it goes from millimeters to centimeters is times or divide by 10. From centimeters to from centimeters to meters, it's times or divide by 100. And from meters to kilometers, it's times by 1,000. So it goes 10, 100, 1,000, adds an extra 0 on each time. So this is important information when we come to our next step. All right, now let's actually apply this information to questions that we may face. So we did a little bit of this at the start, but let's do a little bit more now. So looking at our yellow box, we have 4 meters over here, this side, and 100 centimeters up here. So as I said before, we can't just multiply this number and this number because they're different units. If I did that, I'd get 4 times 100, which would give me 400 something. Would it be centimeters squared? No. Would it be meters squared? No. It gives us a weird answer. So we need to make sure that we convert to the correct, to matching units. Now you basically pick whichever one floats your boat. You can either convert to centimeters or you convert them both to meters. It doesn't matter either way. So you know what? Let's turn this one up here into meters, because straight away we know that 100 centimeters equals 1 meter. So let's give this a try. So area equals base times height. So if my base is 1 meter, oops, 1, and my height is 4, 1 times 4 is 4 meters squared. That would be my area. Now let's give it a go, converting it into centimeters instead. So if I'm to do that, 4 meters, 4 times 100 would give me 400 centimeters. So area equals base times height. My base would be 100 centimeters. Oops, sorry, I don't need to write the units in right now. 100 times 400, which would give me 40,000 centimeters squared. That one looks a bit crazy, but nevertheless the right answer, because if I then converted this back into meters, I'd get the same answer. So there we go. Now let's give this next one a try. So now let's do our orange box up the top. Let's start by converting to millimeters. So 15 centimeters times by 10 would give me 150 millimeters. So area equals base times height. My base is 150, my height is 30. I get 4,500 millimeters squared. Alternatively, if I decide to convert to the bigger unit, which is centimeters, I'm dividing this. Oops, might help if I grabbed a pen. I'm dividing 30 by 10, so that would give me 3 centimeters. So area equals B times H. My base is 15. My height is 3. So that would give me 45 centimeters squared. There we go.